Hello, welcome back to the Marketing in Minutes podcast. I'm your host, Colby Klusterman, and I'm super excited to be here today. We have a returning guest on the show, Zach Bischmann. Zach, thanks so much for jumping on.
Yeah, it's great to be back.
If you haven't listened to those episodes, Zach joined us a few weeks or a month ago, and we've been talking all about HubSpot. He's our HubSpot Account Manager here at Evenbound, so he's definitely the right guy to have these conversations with, and I'm excited to keep those conversations going today. So with that, our question of the day is, what is HubSpot Smart Content and how does it work? I'm really excited because I don't truthfully know a lot about HubSpot Smart Content, and I think I'm going to learn something, and hopefully other people do listening. So let's just start with that. Can you kind of explain to us what HubSpot Smart Content is?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you decided to talk about this because I feel like, HubSpot Smart Content is just another one of those like hidden gems as far as the tools and features within the platform. And I feel like, small to medium-sized companies especially don't really utilize it. So I'm excited to talk about it. But I've heard smart content referred to as, dynamic content or adaptive. I feel like smart content is just kind of the phrase that HubSpot coined for it. But essentially, it's just the term for the aspects of a piece of content that change based on the interests and the past behavior of the user. So it creates an experience that's totally customized specifically for the visitor at that moment. So that means taking into account factors like location, language, device type, referral source, and then also any like contact list membership and life cycle stages that you set. So the second part of your question there is how it actually works. So the technical side of it is actually pretty simple. So using cookies stored in the visitor's browser, HubSpot will attempt to identify a visitor that's coming to your site. If a cookie is present, within the website browser, HubSpot uses it to identify the visitor and then pull information from their respective contact record. So once it does that, it looks at the IP address and then any other device presets like language. And then HubSpot will match that visitor against a piece of content's smart rules and then show the correct asset. So it's pretty straightforward and really a super powerful tool that I feel like doesn't get used as much as it should.
Yeah. So can you go into that a little more? Like, where do you see the benefit of using smart content? Obviously, you said it's a powerful tool and it can be dynamic or adaptive for per user. But why would a company want to invest the time to like set this up and use this on their site?
Yeah, and you said it. I mean, it is an investment in time, and I think that's part of the reason that some, especially smaller companies don't use it. They just don't have the resources to really dive into it. But it can really create impactful experiences that kind of gain trust and delight website visitors, throughout the buyer's journey. So as a visitor's experience with your company grows, their needs and their interests change, right? So people I feel like people want to feel like they matter and feel like their particular needs and goals are being taken into account by the business that they buy from. So smart content just enables you to nurture your leads by providing additional value every time that they engage with a piece of content on your website. Um, I think a really good example of probably the most popular example of smart or dynamic content would be like Amazon's recommendations. Anytime you go on Amazon, they're recommending different products to buy based on what you've searched for or based on what you've previously bought in the past. Um, so that's a great example of it. But obviously that takes a ton of work to do to personalize every single piece of content on your website to make sure it's displaying the correct things for the correct people. So you can start small. Um, you know, Another good example would be, and I'll stick with like the new home example that we used last time. So like Colby, let's say you and I are both looking for houses in our respective areas, our locations, Michigan and Wisconsin. So if we're defined as different buyer personas, let's say in the CRM, we could serve different content from the same email, for instance, new homes in Michigan for you and new homes in Wisconsin for me. So then that way you don't have to have two separate emails. You can have the same email and separate it out by smart rules.
It sounds like all of these things in the personalization you can put into using smart content would certainly increase your chance of conversion for the user or whatever that desired action is. If it is purchasing something on an e-commerce store or if it's filling out a form. But ultimately, it sounds like all of those benefits and aspects you can change in the smart content would lead to increased conversion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think conversion's a big one. Just again, it goes back to that flywheel and the whole kind of MO of HubSpot and inbound marketing and serving the right content to the right people at the right time. So that's really the whole idea of this smart content.
So then looking a little deeper, and I think you touched on some of these when you were first explaining smart content, whether it's list or location. But what is the content and the modules that's supported by HubSpot Smart Content? What specifically can we change and manipulate?
Yeah, so it's important to note currently, I believe HubSpot's smart content is available to Marketing Hub Professional and above. So professional and enterprise customers can take advantage of this, but you can use it on, CTAs, forms, landing pages, websites, emails. So a lot of different ways to use it. And then I think within that the CMS, the landing page and website pages, you can use it on a lot of different modules. I think a lot of people just use it on kind of the rich text modules, but you can use it on images or anything, a bunch of different modules. So there's a lot to take advantage of there, and I think it's important for, if you're just starting out too, just to kind of play around with what's available and just see what's possible.
Yeah, it seems like the possibilities are endless, really. So you gave two good examples of like when you would want to use smart content. That Amazon one, the instance of a home buyer in different locations. I think those were great. Do you have any examples, any other examples of when you would want to use smart content, or examples of when maybe a company shouldn't be using smart content?
Not necessarily examples. I'll keep it general here, but when it comes to filtering known contacts by rules like list membership or life cycle stage, it's super important. It's critical that you have to have clean, well-managed data. So we always say that, data hygiene is huge, and that's never been more true with smart content. This ensures that you're aware of what information you have on segments of visitors before making those smart rules. So it takes insight into what your customers find valuable at every stage of their journey. And this requires, understanding what drives your buyer personas to make a purchase decision, from their goals, their problems, any potential friction or blockers that they may identify. If you're not already aligned with mapping your current content to every stage of the buyer's journey, you'll have to do that before you can successfully execute on smart content. So I know that's not a specific example, but I think that's really important to note. The success of smart content is built on, how well your content marketing and segmentation strategies work within the CRM.
No, I think that's such a good, like, not necessarily a warning, but if you want to set yourself up for success and if you are going to take the time to invest in this process, you need to look at those things first and make sure you have those nailed down. So I was going to wrap us up by saying, like, what would you suggest people do if they want to get started with that? It feels like we kind of answered that question a little bit, like make sure you have clean data, make sure you know your buyer's journey. Anything else that you would recommend if, let's say, people do have those things set up and they're like, yes, I'm ready to dive into smart content. Where do I go? What do I do?
I think just starting small is the biggest thing. If you're not sure what to do or how to use it, like play around with it. Start with, personalizing an email subject line, for instance. Like if you've got your life cycle stage segments, and you could say like welcome for the subject line for an email for a contact, or if they're a customer already, you could say welcome back. Just simple things like that to get you started and you know really delve into what else is possible, and then kind of build from there. I think is a great start.
Yeah, I love that. And Zach, before we wrap up, is your LinkedIn open, or if people want to reach out to you, connect with you there, is that a good place for them? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to connect. Yeah, shoot me a DM or comment on a post or whatever. Yeah,
Yep. And I will link Zach's profile in the show description so you can find it there. But Zach, thank you again. So much HubSpot knowledge comes out of you, and it's just great to have you on the podcast. And like we record it, and so other people can hear it and enjoy it as well. So thank you.
yeah, love talking about it.
And thank you all for spending a few minutes with us. Please feel free to rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and we'll talk to you next time.